Area Services Committee meeting to order, and looking for a motion. I guess I'll let our CEO explain the provincial health order.
Sure, yeah. So we have that special motion on the head sheet of our agenda, and it is with respect to the provincial health order allowing us to have our meetings on Zoom without members of the public present. So I'll just go ahead and read this for anyone who may be watching. It just reads that due to the provincial health order issued on November 19th, that the Fraser Valley Regional District conduct meetings without the members of the public present in the boardroom, and that the Fraser Valley Regional District continue to promote openness, transparency, accessibility, and accountability by webcasting and archiving board meetings online, allowing members of the public to write, email, call in, or appear by Zoom with questions, and promoting public participation at meetings through social media channels.
Good, thank you, Jennifer or Ms. Kinnaman. So motion, Director Raymond, second, Director Stobart. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
Next is your report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Services.
Right, so we had the RACS meeting this morning. There was talk about the regional grant and aid policy. I believe that's on our agenda also. And what drew the most attention was the interest in the strategic planning committee regarding the need for BC Transit and the FERD to further look into the development of service between District of Kent and Mission. And it was also discussed that there's a real need for the province to get behind a program for expanding the transit needs in the Fraser Valley. And I think that was the only thing that drew much attention apart from the regular agenda items at RACS today. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll turn things over to our CAO.
Thank you, Chair Dickey. So just looking for approval of the agenda, addenda, and late items.
Motion. Director Raymond moves. Second. Director Angar, welcome. Thank you. Seconding. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
Next item is 4.1. We have the draft Electoral Area Services Committee meeting minutes of November 10th, 2020.
Okay, looking for a motion. Move Director Stobart. Second, Director Dixon, I hope. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
Next, we have 5.1, which is the 2021 FVRD board and committee meeting schedule. The committee will recall that at our November board meeting, we made adjustments to the procedures bylaw, which would see our committee meetings and board meetings move to Thursdays. So this report and motion reflects those changes.
Good, thank you. So looking for a motion. Move Director Dixon, second Director Raymond. Any discussion? Everyone seems to think that Thursday will work fine for their schedules. Good. Okay, all those in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
Next, we have 6.1, which is the 2020-2024 financial plan amendment. There's a motion for your consideration.
Okay, looking for a motion. Move Director Stobart, second Director Angar. Discussion of this. There's a change to the mosquito control budget, I understand.
Bales?
Director Bales. Welcome.
Oh, just a question. I thought we increased this a fair bit last year. Did we not?
Okay, I will turn that over. Is Ms. Lounsborough present?
She is.
Hi there, Chair Dickey. Yes, Director Bales, for the last few years, the mosquito control budget has been increasing, and this year there were out greater than normal larvae in the because of the Fraser River levels, the water levels. So the budget still was not sufficient.
Okay, I just thought that it was under contract. I did read all that, but so on years when we have light years, do they profit, or is it all done as need as far as payment goes?
I believe it's all on a as needed basis. I see
Okay.
that Lance and Stacy are here. If there's anything further you would like to add.
No, it's just that we increased the budget, so I kind of wondered if that was static or whether it just keeps going up and down, even though we did increase the budget.
Mhm.
As I remember, the Fraser River levels stayed high a lot later than usual this year, and evidently that complicated the mosquito issue.
Yeah, sorry to the chair. I totally get that part. I'm just wondering why we need to increase the budget if it's just going to go up and down depending on the Fraser level. Or yeah, I just thought it was a static contract that we contract out for a certain price, and I didn't realize there was going to be a different pricing system.
Perhaps Ms. Barker could speak to that one.
Thank you, Director Bales. While there may be some increase in the coming years for the contractor's cost, the base fee for the contractor does remain the same each year. There is fluctuations due to changes in the river levels that can fluctuate each year. But the increase that we've seen in the mosquito control budget, the significant increase these past many years, I'm not sure exactly how many, but it could be even as much as 5 or 6, had been as a result of us having a significant reserve in years past that we had been drawing from. That reserve was coming to an end, and taxes had been kept artificially low for many years. The tax increase had happened gradually over so many years. And we are just about at the end of that process so that the tax requisition can truly reflect the cost of this service while still having some reserves, because it's unpredictable, the water levels each year. So while we had hoped to get to this point sooner, we've had a few years where we've had to spend extra money, which has drawn from our reserves. So we're hoping that we're almost caught up now so that tax requisition can properly pay for this service. And we still have some reserves in case of an abnormal year.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Barker, for a very comprehensive explanation. Director Bales, did you have anything else to add?
Oh, just so I know, like, so the contract can fluctuate due to high level years. Just that's all I wanted clarification on.
Okay, good. Thank you, Director Bales. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Contrary, the motion carries.
Next item is 6.2. We have a regional grant and aid policy. Ms. Lounsborough is on the line to answer any questions, and there's a motion for your consideration.
Thank you. Looking for a motion. Move Director Bales. Second, Director Stobart. Any discussion?
Davidson?
Director Davidson, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Zoom bandwidth issues here, so I'm on the phone now if you notice. Anyway, just a quick question through to staff. Other than the role of the executive committee in the workflow, is there any substantive difference now between the regional grant and aid procedure and guidelines as opposed to the electoral area? They look way more similar now than they used to. Just wondering for staff comment.
Okay, thank you, Director Davidson. Turn that over to our CAO.
I think Ms. Lounsborough is ready to answer that one.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair Dickey. Director Davidson, yes, we the most notable policy or process change regarding the regional grant and aid process is an annual submission. So rather than having applications come in throughout the year, as in what happens with the electoral area grant and aid program, this one we will have a cutoff date at August 31st to align with the annual budget process, so that we can look at all of the regional grant and aid applications holistically and for inclusion in the following year's budget. And we've also set an annual maximum, and it doesn't mean it has to be fully utilized every year, but it's an annual maximum at $50,000.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Lamperode. Director Davidson, did you have anything else to add, or?
No, Chair, thank you. And forgive the lag as I *6 to mute and unmute. It's a little bit slower, but I'm good. Thank you.
Well, things are working fine. Thank you. And Director Dixon, did you have something you'd like to say?
Okay, thank you. Two things, I think. So my first thought is, how much do we usually spend in this grant and aid? Like, has there typically been funds left over, or I'm just a little curious about that. And the second one is, especially the $15,000 from the Wild Safe that will now be rolled into the animal control budgets, and I guess that one's probably the environmental services budget. Does that mean there will be an increase in those budgets then?
Well, I can answer part of that because Ms. Lounsborough hasn't been here that long to understand the history of the regional grants and aid. One of the interesting things about this process, in spite of the fact that there was a policy in place, we weren't really able to find any evidence that that policy was necessarily followed, or that there was a specific line item budget allocated for regional grants and aid. And so what appears to have happened over or as much as a decade, or if not longer, it was an ad hoc process. So an organization comes forward with a request, and on a one-off kind of situation, the board would consider whether they wanted to support those requests. So some examples were provided in the report. One in particular, $50,000 was contributed towards the Abbotsford Hospice. I believe that was in 2014. But there wasn't a line item regional grants and aid. And so in an effort to, and we often get questions with respect to our regional grants and aid and what the process is and what the application process is and how the board would consider such a request. Periodically, we get community groups that come forward to the board with project ideas. We've had some in 2020 that could have utilized a grant and aid process had we had a formal one in place. At the same time, over the years, this board has historically been supporting both WildSafe and Elizabeth's Wildlife Society for quite a number of years, routinely. And what you would normally find with grants and aid is that they are for those one-off events or a special project. I believe Ms. Lounsborough has done some research to indicate that many regional district grants and aid policies would have a limit that you could only have 3 kicks at the can, if you will. And so given that this has become less of a grant, but then a standing budget item that we as an organization have been funding year over year, the suggestion is that those 2 particular items would go into the regular budget process starting in 2022. And then the rest, the $50,000, would be a set amount and similar to the electoral area grants and aid. So if there was a year where the board chose not to provide any grants, the $50,000 would remain. The intention would not be for the next year to add $50,000 to that budget. If you spent $10,000 one year, the next year, the recommendation would be to add $10,000 to that budget. So I don't know, Ms. Lounsborough, if you had anything else that you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that explains it really well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Director Dixon, did you have anything else to add? No? Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Davidson?
Director Davidson, go ahead, please.
Sure, thank you, Chair. The discussion on Elizabeth's Wildlife Center kind of jogged something for me. So just by comparison, in EAF, there is the nonprofit that has been getting grants on a regular basis and will continue to do so in the future, but it still goes through that GI grant and aid application process. So if somebody like Elizabeth Wildlife is just going to come out of a service area budget and not go through that the grant and aid application process anymore, is that the intent? Because if it is, then I wonder, does that make them a contractor and not an NGO, and are they subject to different procurement? And I'm just a little bit shy, I guess, of having a one particular organization given special status just because of length of, they've been getting grants for a long time, because there are other organizations that fall into that category as well. Staff comment?
Sure, through the chair to Director Davidson. I think that the first comment would be that this consideration would be coming forward as part of the committee of the whole process in January. So the further discussion about how to handle Elizabeth Wildlife Society and the WildSafe BC budget items can be more fully discussed at that point in time. However, I would point out that both of those services are directly connected to services that the FERD already provides. So in the case of WildSafe BC, the intention would be that that is associated with the solid waste budget. Many regional districts fund the WildSafe program through this manner, in that going out in the community and educating the community about how to handle their waste better is a benefit to the FERD. The second one would be with respect to Elizabeth Wildlife. Our animal control service and many other animal welfare organizations have grappled with the issue of what to do with injured or sick wildlife, and they aren't able to take those kinds of animals. And so it does provide a direct benefit both to the communities, but also to some services that we're already providing. So that would be a distinction, I think, between some of the electoral area grants and aid that are routinely on our agendas. But I don't know, Ms. Lounsborough, is there more that you wanted to add to that?
No, I think that covers it well. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, Director Davidson, go ahead.
So just in that context, then, should we then just really, for practical purposes, be considering WildSafe BC and Elizabeth Wildlife Center as contractors and really out of scope for any sort of GIA discussion?
Okay.
Certainly, through the chair to Director Davidson, that could be discussed at the committee of the whole as to how. The other option, of course, is that the board may wish to continue to have it funded through a regional grant and aid, in which case we would recommend that both WildSafe BC and Elizabeth Wildlife make applications similar to any other organization in that same funding stream.
Good. It seems like we've had a very complete discussion on this, and it appears to me the staff have put a lot of thought in making sure that the procedure is strategically correct here. So anyways, it'll be an interesting discussion at the regional board table. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Contrary? Motion carries.
Next item is 6.3. We have a 2020 grant and aid request for the DeRoche Elementary School in Electoral Area C. I would just like to draw the committee's attention to a last minute change that was brought forward to staff after the agenda was published. The first, in the motion for your consideration, you will note that the full amount is listed as $5,215. In fact, the first portion from Electoral Area C should be reflected as $3,000 instead of $2,250, which would make the total amount $5,965. Motion for your consideration, Mr. Chair.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman. I'll be looking to Director Bales.
I'll move the motion but I want to speak to it.
Okay,
Or
thank
move.
you. And thank you for your motion, Director Bales. And we're looking for a seconder, Director Stobart. Thank you. Discussion, Director Bales.
I would like to amend the motion. Right now it is two motions together. The application was made separately, but I've also had an amendment to the application. Well, not an amendment, actually. I've had a new application that's from the PAC committee. So instead of coming directly from the DeRoche Elementary School, it is actually coming from PAC, which is nonprofit. So, and it's a slightly different request for grant and aid. So I would move that the original Area C motion be canceled and that the PAC grant and aid be replaced, or replace it with the PAC grant and aid, and move that one forward.
Okay, thank you, Director Bales. Maybe we would get staff to give us a reading on whether they feel this is correct procedure.
Mr. Chair, if I could just ask for some clarification from Director Bales. So at the outset, I indicated that the total amount was $5,965 and that the amended amount from DeRoche Elementary School would be $3,000. So am I to understand that that should actually read DeRoche Elementary School PAC $3,000? But did I hear that you don't want this as one motion, that you want to separate the items and have a separate vote on the electoral area C grant and aid versus the electoral area G grant and aid?
Well, I wasn't sure, just for clarification, I wasn't sure whether the area G grant and aid got changed to PAC as well. So I didn't really look at that side of the grant. So
that application read on behalf of the PAC.
yeah, okay. Okay, so sure, it can be all in one. They were separate applications, so I thought that they should be separated, but.
So I'll turn to Ms. Riley. I don't know if we need to have an amendment, Mr. Chair. This was received by staff as a change. And so my suggestion would be that we just amend the motion that's written in the agenda to $5,965 to the DeRoche Elementary School PAC, $3,000 funded from the 2020 Electoral Area C grant and aid budget, and $2,965 funded from the 2020 Electoral Area G grant and aid budget to help offset the costs of outdoor learning materials, field trips, ponchos, shovels, and risers for their fine arts program.
Okay, thank you. So Director Bales, as the mover, you're in agreement with that?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
And Director Stobart as seconder?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion?
Stobart.
Director Stobart, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know staff have made the notation there that that these items typically would be borne by the school districts. Both at Dudney Elementary and at DeRoche Elementary, the outdoor education programs were totally outside the core mandate of the school district and Ministry of Education when those went forward. They supported them, but there was no funding. Those two programs were entirely set up by community. Again, these are very small schools, and so in a school when you've got 500 students, per capita funding actually allows you to buy some of these things where it never would in a small school like these. DeRoche has 60 students, approximately 10% are First Nations, 10% are first generation immigrants. There's not a lot of fundraising ability that can take place at a little school like these. So I suppose technically sometimes these things fall perhaps on that borderline of allowable or not allowable as far as the GIA rules go. But again, with these small schools, there is no other opportunity. This is it. And these certainly do benefit the entire community. So I just wanted to pass that along.
Thank you very much, Director Stobart. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Contrary? Motion carries.
Next item is 7.1. We have the Harrison Mills and Hemlock Valley Transfer Station Operation Contract. There's a motion for your consideration.
Okay, looking to Director Bales. Director Bales, did you want to make a motion? Maybe we'll try someone else for a motion. Director Raymond moves. Second. Director Dixon. Any discussion?
Bales.
Director Bales, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted and I wasn't. So anyway, yeah, I would like to go forward with this for sure. It would be nice to see a little bit more staff information, but I did get the information that I needed. So I'm fine with this one.
Good, thank you, Director Bales. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Contrary, the motion carries.
7.2, we have the Sylvester Road Transfer Station Operation Contract. Again, there's a motion for your consideration.
Okay, looking to Director Davidson.
Move.
Thank you, Director Davidson moves. Second, Director Raymond, thank you. Any discussion?
Davidson?
Go ahead, Director Davidson.
Just a quick question through to staff. Is the contract amount, is it 100% for staff time manning the station, or are there other, I'm just trying to get a rough idea as to what the scope of that contract is. Staff would comment. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chan, were you going to answer for us?
I can speak to that. Yeah, through to Director Davidson. Yeah, that contract is for the transfer station attendant only, so it's basically just staff time and nothing else.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chan. Director Davidson, did you have anything to follow up?
I'm good, thank you, and we'll support the motion.
Thank you again. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
8.1, we have Development Variance Permit 2019-31 to vary size requirements for an accessory building at 9966 Lanbaris Way in Electoral Area D. There's a motion for your consideration.
Thank you. Looking for a motion. Move Director Stewart. Second, Director
Stewart.
Dixon.
Second, Director Dixon. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
8.2, we have Development Variance Permit 2020-23 to vary the front lot line setback from 4.6 meters to 1.58 meters for an accessory structure at 48585 Chilliwack Lake Road in Electoral Area E.
Moved.
Engar.
Thank you, Director Engar. Second,
Dixon.
second, Director Dixon. Any discussion?
Just briefly, if I may, Chair.
Yeah, Director Engar, go ahead.
I met with the applicant and had a look at the site, and I think it was an honest mistake. Regardless, MOTI is signed off on it, and they're okay with the positioning of the building. So yes, I would support this as long as there's no comments coming forth by the public, which I haven't seen any yet. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director Engar. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Next item is 8.3. We have zoning bylaw amendment number 1619 to address temporary tourist accommodation in snow avalanche hazard areas in Hemlock Valley, Electoral Area C.
Thank you.
Bales.
Move Director Bales. Second, Director Raymond. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Bales.
Director
just-
Bales, go
I just
ahead.
wanted to clarify for any residents that are watching that this will likely go forward to a public meeting in January. It still has to be passed through the board process, but just in case people are watching.
Thank you, Director Bales. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
8.4, we have modification of covenant BT 217825 for 53722 Burston Road in Electoral Area D.
Motion, looking to Director
Bales?
Bales, second.
Engar.
Director Engar. Any discussion?
Dixon.
Hearing none. Oh, Director Dixon, please go ahead.
Thank you. I just want some clarification. So it seems like this is another one that was built without permission. Is there liability attached to this one because of being built below the level of the berm, or is that what the geotech report takes care of that for the FERD board?
Okay, thank you, Director Dixon. Perhaps Mr. Danilus would like to speak to that?
Actually, Mr. Chair, Mr. Danilus is not on the call today, but we do have Gavin who authored the report, and I'm sure he would be happy to answer that question.
Good, thank you. Go ahead,
thank
Mr.
you.
Loomis.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Dixon. Yes, the covenant modification process and the sealed geotechnical report, as well as the sealed designs, will be necessary here to mitigate the liability for FBRD and are necessary for us to move forward with the covenant modification process. We received those technical requirements and they're in good order. The building permit can be issued based on this modification.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Loomis and Director Dixon. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
8.5, we have covenants for proposed 3-lot subdivision at 20559 Edelweiss Drive in Electoral Area C.
For a motion,
Bales?
Director Bales moves. Second, Director Stobart. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Three. Director Bales, did you have something? No? All in favor? Contrary? The motion carries.
8.6, we have Agriculture Land Commission application for a non-adhering residential use at 53788 McGregor Road in Electoral Area D.
Thank you. Looking for a motion. Move Director Stobart. Second, Director Dixon. Any discussion?
Oops, Dixon.
Yep, go ahead, Director Dixon.
Well, it might be in here. I did read it. Just a question. Who follows up around making sure that they actually destroy the second dwelling, or the one that they'll stay in while they build? Is that FARD's role to ensure they do that, or the ALC?
Thank you, Director Dixon. Ms. Kinnaman, did you want to assign that to a staff member?
Sure. I see that this was Tracy Herron's report and she's on the line, so perhaps she would like to speak to that one.
Ms. Herron.
Tracy, are you there? You're muted at this point.
This is Julie. Tracy can't unmute yourself, but I can answer the question.
Thank you, Julie.
So it will be the building department that will ensure that the house is removed before before occupancy is issued for the new house. So FERD will ensure that the house is removed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Monday. Thank you, Director Dixon. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
8.7, we have request for FVRD to initiate a zoning amendment for 5 privately owned properties adjacent to Coquihalla River Provincial Park in Area B.
Okay, looking for a motion.
Bales?
Thank you, Director Bales. Go ahead.
I'd like to move option 3.
Okay,
And that is, should I read it out?
Yeah, I think
Sure, that would be great.
Okay, that the Fraser Valley Regional District Board refer the request for staff to initiate a zoning Oh, sorry, to refer the request back to staff, that was option 3. That the Fraser Valley Regional District Board refer the request for staff to initiate a zoning amendment for 5 properties owned, 5 privately owned properties adjacent to Coquihalla River Provincial Park back to staff. Sorry, I just got a message from Dennis before the meeting, so I'm getting up to speed.
Yeah, no, thank you, Director Bales. So the motion is to refer back to staff. Looking for a seconder. Director Raymond looks like he might. Thank you, Director Raymond. Any discussion on the referral only?
Dixon.
So we're only allowed to speak to the referral, as I understand. So go ahead.
The reasons for the referral. Yeah.
So I would like to know the reasons for the referral, because it seems to me that they have been working for this for a long time. So if that is an appropriate question, that would be.
Yes, that is appropriate.
Yep, thank you, Director Dixon. Director Bales, did you want to make a reply to the reason for a referral back to staff?
I can't really give a detailed reason other than that Director Adamson would like to get more information on behalf of residents. So that's the best I can do.
Okay, thank you, Director Bales. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Contrary? Motion carries.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to record, just for the minutes, those who are in opposition. Director Dixon, do I have you in opposition?
Yeah. Dixon.
Is there any other members of the committee that voted in opposition that I didn't catch? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Turning things back to Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So moving down to 8.8, we have bylaw offense notice enforcement amendment bylaw number 1618. There's a motion for your consideration.
Okay, looking for a motion. Move Director Stobart. Second Director Engar. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Contrary, motion carries.
So moving down to reports from staff. At this time, I would just like to ask Angelique Crowther to turn on her camera. And it's my pleasure to introduce the committee to the newest FARB staff member. I believe she's the newest. Angelique is the new manager of communications. Looks like some of our staff, oh, there she is. New manager of communications. She started on Monday. We're really delighted to have her here. She came to us here in Chilliwack from the University of British Columbia, where she worked for a number of years in a number of different departments, including campus community planning and the Equity and Inclusion Office, both in communications capacity. Previously, though, she also worked for the Vancouver School Board, and what I think is perhaps the most interesting thing on her resume is that she was the communications manager for the Cayman Islands government, and she survived Hurricane Ivan in 2004. So I think our emergency management team will be very anxious to hear all of those stories that she has for us, and we welcome her aboard in these very unusual times of onboarding a new staffer remotely.
Well, isn't that great? Welcome. Sounds like an exciting life.
Bales?
Director Bales, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question about what we can look at for a budget for communications. I think it's pretty unsure times as far as the COVID regulations and how much we're going to need to do by letter or by survey or just to get the information to make sure people know what's going on that might concern them. And it's hard to know from day to day how much might need maybe a mail out budget or what we're going to do just to keep up with the new regulations. So I just wondered if anybody had some comments on that, or whether we have to really define a budget for the next year almost immediately, or
Through
whether
the
we can
chair.
adjust it all.
Yeah, through the chair to Director Bales, if I may. I think each electoral area director obviously has different needs and different preferences in how they communicate with their constituents. Staff have a couple of ideas that are inexpensive ways, for sure, to reach out to the community. And if there were additional areas that you would like to augment your own electoral area C budget, you could certainly speak offline with Ms. Lounsborough about that, because the 2021 budget has not, as you know, has not been finalized yet. So if you wanted to add some more room for that kind of communication, that's certainly a possibility.
Good. Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman. Anyone else that would like to add to the discussion? Hearing none, we'll turn things back to our CAO.
Moving down to reports by electoral area directors, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Director Angar, can you lead off?
Certainly, Chair. Thank you. It's been pretty quiet out here, and we're all kind of hunkering down and going through this next phase as we hopefully see vaccines come rolling out. I think the community has handled things very well, and I'm very proud to be a part of this community, representing the community. And so, yeah, we're all hoping for the best this spring and summer, and hopefully this summer will bring a different time and we can get back together again. Thanks to staff as well for making a very streamlined public Zoom meeting recently. This newbie circumnavigate the Zoom process. They made it very easy, and thank you sincerely. I should also mention, I think it's worth repeating, as I mentioned in RACS this morning, that I had a COVID test recently. I went to the Abbotsford drive-through area, and I'm just totally impressed with these folks out there in a very cold morning underneath the tents and serving our communities valiantly. And my hat goes off to them, and sincere kudos for what they're doing. So that's about it for me. I'll pass it on. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Angar. Director Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple updates. Yesterday, there was an online Zoom meeting for the Cultus Lake Water Safety Committee that we have a new name now, but it's I have to find out what that would be. But basically, it really is just continue to look at ways to share the lake, particularly the water part, so it's safe and fun for boaters, kayakers, paddlers. And so those meetings continue monthly. We actually have a vision and all those kind of things. So that's really some pretty good work going on there with representations from a lot of groups, including the First Nations peoples, which is very important for the area. So I'm pleased to see that. Some super work went on with the Lakeside Trail this past week and a half, I guess. So it's now, we do have the non-standard barrier that goes all the way from the other side of Aquadel to Maple Bay. It looks good. So thanks to the park staff. I know Megan and David and Stacy have all been involved in some way there. So as well as the contractors working pretty hard out there, pounding in those poles. And so that looks great. And just Aquadel Phase 3 has started their work. So there's construction going on there already. So other than that, we're just hunkered down, staying home. So all is well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Director Dixon. Director Stobart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not much to report, Mary G. No, nothing at all, really. It's been very quiet. A lot of people doing what they're supposed to, staying home, not traveling too much, and looking forward to something different in not too many months, I'm hoping. So anyhow, that's it.
Good. Thank you, Director Stobart. Director Raymond?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to report out on, we held a, we call that a Stuff the Cruiser drive for raising funds and food for the food bank. And I'm pleased to say that the community came up with over 600 pounds of different food products and collected over $3,000 in cash donations to go to our food bank here in town. It was pretty impressive for such a small community. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Director Raymond. Director Bales?
Not a lot to report here. I guess this morning I got a complaint about dirt on the road and in more than one location. So there's that. I have to talk to staff about that, but that's beside the point, I guess. I guess that's about it. Pretty much things are quietish. People are staying home, so more than normal. So I haven't had too many direct complaints other than some of the camping populations, and that's an ongoing issue. So we're still working on that. Staff is working hard, I know. So that's about it for Area C.
Good. Thank you, Director Bales. Director Davidson?
All quiet again. Thank you, Chair.
Quiet is good. Thank you, Director Davidson. And in the Popcom area, we're seeing a lot of homes starting to be built in the Minter Gardens development. And next week, I believe it's December 15th, is our public hearing for our Area D official community plan rewrite. So that's been in the works for a long time, and it's nice to see it coming to an end. That is all I have to report. I will turn things back to Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So moving down to item 12, which is public question period for items relevant to the agenda. As has been our practice during these COVID times, we have invited the public to send email submissions to info@frd.ca prior to 1 p.m. on December 7th. We did not receive any emailed items. However, I do understand that we had a caller on the line. Do we still have a caller on the line, Ms. Riley?
That's correct. So we're showing a Doug Unwin who has joined us today. Doug, you're here and you'd like to ask your question. Now would be your opportunity to ask a question of our committee.
Sure, that's great. I don't know, can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
yes,
go ahead,
can.
Mr. Unwin.
Good, thank you. It was relation to the Area B, the 5 private properties that are currently zoned park that we're looking to rezone recreational. I'm not sure what it means to have it referred back to staff, or what other details the director may be looking for.
Okay, thank you, Unwin. I spoke with Director Stobart, or Director Adamson, excuse me, earlier today, and it was a very short call that he made to me, but he did say that he felt that he needed to receive more information on what is being discussed prior to making a determination on whether it should go forward or not. I didn't get a sense that he felt that there was anything seriously amiss in the application, but that is the extent of what I know about this file.
Okay, that's great. I'll look forward to hearing back from staff, I guess, on any details they'd like from myself or family members or the other property owners there. We're just in a situation where the property was originally owned by my mother, then it was my 3 brothers, now we have our cousins are part owners. So we're just looking, planning ahead for when, as is usual with these recreational properties changing hands, and the ability to be able to work with our family members to come up with some solutions.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Unwin. That makes makes a lot of sense, and we do apologize for any delay that you're experiencing.
Oh, no, not a problem. Tracy Heron's been great on getting back to me as things have moved forward. I appreciate staff's help on this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, turning it back to Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just looking for a motion to adjourn.
Great. Director Stover moves. Director Raymond, I'm looking to, and I got a nod. Thank you for a second. All those in favor? Contrary? Motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, staff.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.